Draftstars Legends, round 7 is upon us, and I can't wait for this first game here. We have the Rabbitohs up against the Dolphins, and Dolphins really putting up a fight and winning against Cowboys. Rabbitohs putting the dogs to the sword, and I'm really hoping for a close one. In the outside backs here, you see ridiculous games from Latrell Mitchell and also Campbell Graham last week, both just scoring massive amounts, 83 and 75 respectively. And I think Campbell Graham can still come out and do the same again. So really, it's a mixture between spending the money on Jermaine Osako, who's been averaging 53 across the season, which is incredible. Hamiso averaging 47 and pretty cheap as well. Or do you spend up top? Let's look at the halves and hookers, and that'll make your decision for you. I think Cody Walker is probably the best pick in this position here. With him just getting better and better each and every week. The last 3 game average there of 70, he's just getting better and better, and tackling hard, but then running the ball plenty and getting involved a lot as well. So you can save a little bit there and go in the outside backs. And if you're looking at the forwards here, you go down to the bottom, and really there's guys like Ray Stone and Jacob Host who could be solid ones for you. Host doing really well last week, a try and a try assist, getting a 50. So even if he can get you a sort of a 30 odd in that spot, I think he's going to be worth it in your side. And then you have, as I said, Ray Stone there. And then up the top, it's obviously the clear top guys in Murray and Kolomatangi. If you have the spare cash, then one of those two are going to be great. But otherwise, spend that little bit less down below and maybe one of those more expensive guys and go between a cheapie and potentially a big dog in the outside back. So let's go to the next game. There is the Roosters and the Sharks, guys. And if you haven't played Draftstars before, there is a sign up link in the description. That'll be the best way to get cranking on this one. There are free versions, there are paid versions. Get around it. Outside backs for this game is going to be very, very interesting, with Teddy up top, returning for this game, averaging 34 across his 4 games that he's played. And you'd expect a bounce back from him. I'd be picking him over Teddy, over Manu for sure in this one here. And then I'd be looking at a lot of the Sharkies outside back. So Ramian in a good spot there, just over 13k. Ronaldo, Mulatalo as well. They're the 2 guys I'd be looking at in this one if you wanted to go mid-range. And then cheapies there, I think Suali'i is a good one as always there at 38 average his last 3, and that includes a 63 in round 2 as well. He's in a decent spot to be able to do pretty well. They got smashed last week and he still picked up a 33, so that could be an option for your side there. Halves and the hookers, Nico Hines at 26,760. Incredible the amount of salary you'd have to spend to get him, and I think you might probably have to avoid him. I understand why you look to get him. His average speaks for itself, and that's why his salary is so high. Walker had a bit of a shocker last week, and he could have a bounce back game. You see here he's got a couple of low ones in amongst 3 really high games. So Walker, definitely a good option for this one. Brandon Smith as well, 13,500. Again, a couple of shockers in amongst the 45. So really you could probably just go for one of those top 2, I think, in this one, and try and run away with some potentially lower price guys in the other positions. And Cam McInnes is clearly up top for me in this one. He gets that 13 roll, and I'm expecting a 50 odd score from him in this one. Teague Wilton as well, 16k. You're probably around that 50 mark you're looking at as well. Lodge returns, and Egan Butcher had a pretty solid one in his his best game of the year there, 52. But I think you can avoid him and go for guys like Royce Hunt, who gets that start this week. He hasn't been getting big minutes, and you see that 34 2 games ago for him is a good position to look at. And Hamlin-Ueli been really consistent. So either of those 2, I think Hamlin-Ueli is obviously safer. Hunty is one of those guys that could easily get a try in this one. Terrell May is one of those guys that scored really well last week as well, in amongst some consistency around that 27 all the way up to 32. So a mixture of those 3, being able to spend up money in Walker or Heinze in the other one, and go to your outside backs there. In the next one, Storm and Manly, Munster goes back to fullback, and we know the type of output he can provide. So he's pretty close to a must-have in this outside backs position. I really think that Warbrick could have a bit of a bounce back. The Manly boys have been conceding a lot to right wingers, so keep that in your minds there. 11 last week was not good. He has an 8 in his game as well, but 36 and 52 the 2 before that. That could be the play in this one, but really, other than that, you're looking at sort of these mid-range guesses, to be honest with you. I don't think it's right to play Tommy Trbojevic having back spasms, so could be Munster and then a mixture of 2 cheapies if you're using the flex as well. Halves hookers, you got Harry Grant at 23.6. Very, very expensive in this one. I think Jonah Pezzett you need to get in your side this week, 10,800. best play to make in this halves and hooker position. And, Weeks is in there in the cheap spot, but he's coming off the bench in this one. If you're looking at the forwards there, we've got King, who's still a great option. Welchie's been solid. Eli Katoa at 16k should be in most people's sides, I think. He can do an awesome job for you. And then looking down the line, you've got Paseka, who's been scoring pretty well, and he still had an okay one in his 32 on the weekend. Remember, they did get smashed, and you would hope for a much closer game in this one, so that a lot of these guys that are in the forwards for Manly can improve for you there when you select them. Cowboys and the Warriors there. I think this is going to be a fairly close contest, and in the outside backs, I don't think you can pick Holmes yet. So he had a nice game last one there with the 69.5, which is a big improvement for him, and some decent scores in and around that. The last bunch of times he's played. This is Val Holmes, I said, instead of Drinky. So he's been super strong there. I'd be avoiding Drinky. And guys like Chance, they should be in your side in this one. He should easily be able to get to somewhere in the 40s. He's been super consistent, the lowest of 41 in non-injury affected games. So slot him in as a must-have there. And really, anyone else, it's just going to be making a guess on guys like Vatalea, on Kossi, on Montoya and Pompey there. Could all have massive games, could all have shockers as well. So they're the risk it type of plays for you. Sean Johnston, the clear must-have in this one, and Townsend, secondary option there for sure. Dylan Walker is a cheeky one in the 6th position, but I think Freddie Lussick is going to be your good flex guy at 11,000. He's getting that number 9 jersey with Wade Egan out, and he scored well last time in that position. If you're looking at the forwards, you've got 40 there who went okay. I think Cohen Hess is a solid one in that starting jersey. Again, 2 good scores in a row, 52 and 56. Slot him into your side. Mitch Dunn is going to be solid again, but he's a little bit expensive. So guys like Bailey Sirenen in that 12 role this week could hopefully score around that 30 odd. And if he could sneak a try or something, that would be great as well. Moving to the next game, you've got the Knights and the Panthers, and Miller continues to score really well. I don't know why Edwards is so cheap in this one. He's a gun. He should be in most people's sides, along with Brian To'o and Isaac Tungo. So, to get Tungo at 12,500 is pretty ridiculous in this one. I'd probably avoid Marzu. I think Gagai can still score okay, but I think Greg's not going to get the tries that he's been receiving in most weeks here. And Lockie Miller, probably a slight avoid this week as that most expensive guy when there's heaps of value elsewhere. Halves hookers, Cleary is just a beast at the moment, isn't he? 95, 87, and 85, his last 3. He should be slotting into the majority of people's sides. Crossland in the 9 position at 12,500. Should be able to tackle really well. Last week was at 5'8". The round 2 and 3 games were in that hooking position. So Crossland, definitely a solid one to throw in your team this week. And then it's like Mitch Kenny. Do you think this could be closer and he gets lots of tackles in this one? Probably not, and I'd be avoiding Gamble just on the fact that they're coming up against the Panthers. Isaiah Yeo, been scoring great. I think Hosking being down at 16.8 after being really high last week is still a solid selection. Tyson Frizzell, one of those guns as well, I think you need to look at this week, considering he's cheaper of those guys. Leo Thompson keeps scoring well. Get him in your sides along with Scott Sorensen, unless we see Garner or we see Liam Martin on the bench there. So they're the type of guys we're looking at. Eisenhuth didn't score as well as we would have liked last week, so he's a bit of a watch this week and leave him out as we move to the next game there. All right, so Broncos come up against Titans, and keep talking about Walshy as just being that must-have, and he's now up at 18,000, so that's a little bit frustrating for us that are looking to pick him up. Jaden Campbell, I still think is a must-have like last week, and he really rewarded owners in Draftstars. Other than that, there's not too many clear guys to select in this one. I really think that Broncos should put them away. It'll be a little bit closer than we may think, considering they lost last week, but you'd expect a bounce back from them. Philip Sami was amazing, and could you get a couple of games, back-to-back games out of him? Potentially, but Farnworth and Walshy are going to be your top guys to select in that one. I think Reynolds again, clear best option. Average 40, hit 46 last week, so his salary has dropped a little bit, which is good news if you're looking to pick him up. And then Tanner Boyd is getting his kicking in general playback, and I think that's going to be good if you want to go a little bit cheaper there. In the forwards, you've got Haas. There is the clear best option, 69. He's averaging only Fafita only a little bit under him in price, so I think if you got those two, you select Haas in this one. And then anything lower than that, Jensen scoring solidly. And same with Isaac Liu and Stimson, but really not too many great options. So you might have to spend up in that position and potentially get like a Jensen at 12k, but I don't really like that one either. So it's going to be interesting what you do in the forwards, especially trying to pick up 3 in that game. Raiders and the Dragons, second last one on the list here. Very low in the outside back salary wise. Lomax is there. I think Tomoko is still selecting your side as the best option, and then just picking between like Sloan and Sully. Really, we lose Ravalawa, who's been scoring really well. Croker was pretty solid last week. He could have another good game at 9k. Picked up 32.8 in his first game back in a long time, so that was good news for him. Okay, we've got Hunt, who's been dominant. I had him as a must-have last week, and it's him or Foggs this week. I think either way, should be able to do pretty fine. Whiten does return, which I don't think changes too much for Foggs. It looks like he got into his groove again, ran the ball a bit more, plenty of kick meters, and yes, Whiten will take away a few of those. So if you think it's not worth the $2,000 you save on Hunt, then I think just go straight for Benny in this one. In the forwards, we see Tapine come back, and he's been doing well without being spectacular. Laurie had a bit of a come back to earth moment last week, and Couchman was really good off the bench, so he got big minutes and a big score of 46, so at 10,300, anywhere in the 30s is going to be good for him. And Ben Murdoch-Pasilla just continues to stink it up, unfortunately, so that's that with him. DeBellin's still playing lower minutes, so avoid him. Horsburgh came in and did a good job last week again at 42. It's a bit too expensive there, so any of those top guys are going to be fine. Hudson Young's, Tapine, you can save a little bit of cash on a few of them there. Eels v Dogs to round things out, and Karaz is down a little bit at 15k. I think Penasini's an awesome option, guys, and Sean Russell at 9,990. He's fairly cheap and did a good job last week getting that solid score, but you'd hope for a little bit more. Alamotti, potential bounce back, but am worried how the Dogs are going to play here against the Eels. Hopefully it's a bit of a closer one, but Penasini and Karaz are your clear best options, with Hayes Perham for a little bounce back as well, just over 10k. All right, in the next section, you've got Moses, absolutely dominant last week, and got 79 in that one. I think Burton will have a pretty good game in this one at 18k, averaging 52, and Marnie had a good one as well. So any of those three will work out well for you. I'd be avoiding everyone else in that section. And then in the forwards, you've got Madison, who's been great at 64.4 over his first three games. Lane on his return, underwhelming, so avoid him at this point. I think Cartwright you can still slot in your side, but you're expecting somewhere close to that 50, hopefully. Jermaine Hopgood, very, very cheap now at 11,840, and he had an okay score last week of 37.8, so I think he's just a must-have because they keep dropping his salary based on his reduction in scores, but he'll still play big enough minutes, I think, to be good enough at that price point there. So that's the end of this video, guys. I wish you all the best of luck. As I said, jump into the description, hit that sign up link, and get cracking in Draftstars, and let me know some of the must-haves you think there are this week. Good luck this week, and gamble responsibly.